Hello everybody and welcome to another Twilight Zone review. Today it is Season 5, Episode 4, A Kind of Stopwatch, written by Rod Serling and starring Richard Erdman as McNulty. This episode I would say is an average Twilight Zone episode. I think the premise of the episode is actually okay. It's a little bit different and it's decent, but I don't think the episode quite hits the full impact that it's going for, and the reason for this is because the episode is played up mostly for comedy throughout most of it and then kind of tries to get serious at the very end, and I don't think that it totally works in the context of the episode. But the episode is pretty well paced and entertaining for the most part. So it's okay, and I'll get into some more of that as we go. So we start with a man named McNulty, and he's in an office, and I'll be nice and say that this guy likes to chat. That's a good way to put it. He talks quite a bit, and Rod Serling definitely enforces this in the opening narration, and we can tell everyone in the office is somewhat annoyed by him, especially this one secretary lady, who's a little crabby herself, to be fair. And McNulty gets called in his boss's office after this, and we get to hear some of the strange suggestions he has for the company, which have nothing to do with the company at all, and we learn there's like 340 of them. Man, that's a lot. So basically this leads to McNulty being fired, and this scene was fairly humorous. The ideas were bizarre, but they were kind of funny. So then he goes into this bar, and he's still chatting a lot. He really likes to talk, and there's a lot of other people there, and they all start to leave one by one as they are very annoyed by this guy as well. And apparently we find out he comes in there all the time and does this, scares off customers, which doesn't make the bartender too happy. But there is one other man that's still in the bar. His name is Potts, and he's kind of an odd character, and he winds up giving this stopwatch to McNulty. I guess he just wanted to get rid of it. So I'll just go with it. You know, it's done mostly for comedy purposes. So McNulty's fooling around, and he hits the stopwatch button, and the bartender freezes. He's the only other one there. McNulty hits it again, and the bartender's back to normal. So he does this a couple times, and the man freezes and goes back to normal again. So McNulty's home, and he's starting to wonder about this. He thinks maybe he just had too much to drink. He's not sure. So he uses it on his fish, and they also freeze. And I have to say, there's this strange, goofy kind of time stop music that they put on every time that McNulty does this, but it works for me. I kind of like the time stop music. For some reason, it works in the episode. So that's all fine. It's used quite a bit. So we go to the next day, and I guess McNulty's still not convinced. So after freezing his fish again, he opens the window, and he freezes pretty much everyone and everything on the street. And we see this odd medley of him freezing different things. He freezes people, vehicles, some water skiers, I think, animals, all kinds of things. This scene I would describe as strange but amusing. I guess it works for the most part. It's fairly entertaining, although the time stop effects look kind of odd, but they work in the context of the episode. So he goes back to the office, and that crabby secretary is there again, and he tells her the story of what he can do. And of course, she doesn't believe him. It's interesting that he told people about this. So he goes back into the boss's office. He barges in, and the boss wants nothing to do with him. He kicks him out. So McNulty decides he's going to freeze time, and this is one of my issues with the episode. He goes back into the office, and he does weird stuff to the boss while he's frozen. Like he puts like a flower on him, and he does some other weird thing. And the boss's reaction isn't even that funny when he wakes everybody back up. Just the things he does in the office. It's another case of a guy not using his powers for very creative reasons, as we've seen in the Twilight Zone before. So he goes back to the bar and tells the guys about the watch, and I guess he thinks he'll have better luck there, but he doesn't. Nobody believes him there either. So he decides he's going to stop all of them to show them to prove it, and he messes around again. He takes their drinks and stuff. He doesn't really do anything of substance. I don't know why. And then he finally realizes that no one else reacts to it because they're all frozen in time. They don't know what's going on. And then we find out all he really wants is some attention from people because they're all annoyed by him, which makes sense. So he's trying to think of a good way he can use this watch, and he sees the bartender opening the cash register, and he gets this idea about money. So at least he's trying to use his powers for a bigger purpose now, although not really a good purpose. So he goes to the bank after he leaves the bar, and he freezes time, and he goes into the safe and takes out all the money and everything, which makes sense. But I have a big question with this. I know it's Twilight Zone and you have to suspend your disbelief sometimes, but was the safe open Was he able to push it open? Was it unlocked? I'm not really sure. I just find it hard to believe it would be that easy to get this money, even with time frozen. Like, he got in there pretty easy. I'm just saying, it's kind of something about the plot I thought was a little bit strange. So when McNulty's leaving with all the money, he accidentally breaks the stopwatch. It falls on the ground and breaks. So basically he can't reverse this, and he goes around to different places like the office and the bank, and basically he can't start up back time. And this is the other part of the episode that doesn't really work for me. It tries to get serious all of a sudden. McNulty says he's sorry. He realizes what he did wasn't good, but you don't really get that much feeling out of it because the whole thing was kind of played humorously. Had it been taken seriously from the beginning and we got some more in-depth characterization of this guy, then it might have worked better, but it just doesn't come across to me that all of a sudden they tried to make it serious and really like make us feel more in this episode than what the episode was leading on up to this point. I thought that was strange and it didn't totally work for me. And the other problem here is, not to nitpick too much, but I think we needed, you don't need everything spelled out, but I think we needed a little more explanation as far as, did he just freeze everyone in his city, in the state, in the world? Because if he froze everybody within a certain radius, I guess you can believe this, but if he froze everybody in the world by doing this, like, are there other watches that do this, and how do they affect it? Like, it just seems you really have to suspend your disbelief to believe that he froze everybody. But if you just don't think about it too hard and enjoy the episode as an entertainment, it is relatively funny in spots. I think the lead actor, Richard Erdman, does a good job, and the episode has a lot of good moments. It's fast-paced. I just feel like there's too many holes and problems to give it a really high rating. So I give a kind of stopwatch a 2.5 out of 5. I do think it's an entertaining and watchable episode, but it doesn't really have the substance or depth that it goes for. But it's fine, it's watchable. So 2.5 out of 5 for a kind of stopwatch, and as always, thank you very much for watching.